Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. I can't believe I'm making 2 videos in the course of a day, but this was, I thought, worth mentioning. It's kind of exciting and exhilarating in a way. I know there's going to be Pacers fans who don't like this, and that's fine. You guys don't agree with me on, like, I don't expect everybody to agree with me on shit. I really just look to start discussions, but ever since the Pascal Siakam trade rumors, I've been looking at a way to get us a guy who could maybe score 22 a game and also be a good defender and be a solid growth player for us. Like, because like every trade that we've been a part of, everybody says like, oh, this player's too old, this player's that, this player's this player's that. And I was like, you know, if we could find a guy who is criminally like underrated, but also like has a lot of upside and isn't breaking the bank, it would be ideal for us, right? So the Pascal Siakam trade rumors came out, and I was like, okay, like I wouldn't be, you know, against getting Siakam, but you know, there's a lot of risk in trading for Siakam, right? Like there's rumors out there that he wouldn't even re-sign with a team that he gets traded to. So that automatically decreases his trade value. Then there's OG Anunoby, the player that Pacers fans ideally want. And obviously the Toronto Raptors want too much for him. So now we got to go elsewhere, right? Not Toronto. The 76ers have Tobias Harris. He's 30 years old, making $39 million a year. Yeah, he can come out and get you 20, but that's still not enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think 20 points per game is enough, but being that he's 30 and like he's not a super great defender, I'm just like, okay, you know what? Like, Tobias Harris is out, okay? Pacers fans don't even seem to want him anyway. Then there was Gordon Hayward, and I'm like, okay, $31 million for a guy who's lucky if he plays and only scores less than 15 points a game. Okay, he's out. Gordon Hayward's out. So then I was like, okay, what about DeMar DeRozan? Well, DeMar DeRozan would be nice, but he's 33 years old. He just had the best defensive season of his career statistically, as far as, like, you know, advanced metrics go and stuff. But I looked at it, and I was like, okay, well, there's nothing we could really offer the Bulls that would make up for what the Bulls are getting rid of. So then I was forced to look someplace else. And somehow through all this, I ended up on the San Antonio Spurs. And one guy that they have on their roster in particular, in Keldon Johnson. Keldon Johnson would be ideal, I think, for what our team is trying to do. And I really don't think it would take a whole lot to get him, because the Spurs have been drafting wings for like the past couple years now. I mean, they drafted Blake Wesley, who's 6'5" and plays point guard and has been balling out in summer league. Malachi Branham, another guy, a guy you could say arguably was like the steal of the draft last year, in last year's draft. Malachi Branham is a guy who's been balling out in summer league. They still have Devin Vassell, who averaged 18.5 points a game last year and is a solid defender. Like, Devin Vassell is going to be like a bona fide all-star player for them at some point in his career. And they just drafted Victor Wembanyama. So I look at this and I'm kind of like, okay, well, that leaves like Keldon Johnson is kind of like the odd man out here. Like, because he's 23, he's a guy that I just don't think is going to be a part of their future at some point. Like, he still could be. He's a really, really good player, so San Antonio is going to want to keep him for that reason. But Keldon Johnson's a guy who, if we're the Pacers, right, Keldon Johnson is on a very, very team-friendly deal. In fact, he's on a similar contract to Miles Turner, where he actually makes less as the contract goes on. So this year, he'd be making $20 million. Next year, he'd be making 19, and then 2 years after that, it's 17.5. So his contract actually somehow gets cheaper over the duration of his contract, which is insane. It's 4 years, $74 million, right? This is a guy who averaged 22 points per game last year, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists, with a PER 15.3 last year. Now, the thing about Keldon Johnson is people are going to look at his three-point shooting and go, well, he shot the 3 like shit last year. He shot the 3 at like 33%. And while I would agree, I mean, he played 63 games, started all 63 games, and didn't shoot well from 3. But the year before that, he played 75 games, shot 46% from the field, and 39% from 3 when he had DeJounte Murray as a teammate, okay? And I think that's key, because On our team, he would have Tyrese Halliburton as a teammate. And I think part of the reason his three-point shooting went down so much was because last season he was asked to be their best player, and he was their best player. And if you look up any tape on Keldon Johnson, you'll realize he's a damn good isolation defender. Like, underrated isolation defender, I will say that. Like, the dude can lock up one-on-one. He's 6'6", 220 pounds, and I think Alex Hoops put it best. He's like Rashard Lewis in a sense where he's too big for smaller guards, but he's too fast for bigger players or for bigger wings and centers and stuff like that. Like, he's a guy that flat out bullies his way to the basket. He's got a nice floater. He shoots the corner three at 49% last season. Like, on corner threes last year, he shot 49% from three. On catch and shoot threes, he shot 41% on catch and shoot threes last year. Okay? Like, it's just like, it's absolutely insane to me that, like, not this past season, but the year before, too. I just want to throw that out there. Like, the year he shot 39% from three. But, like, he's a guy that I look at and I'm like, he's 23 years old. Contract actually gets cheaper over the duration of it. He can average 20 plus a game. He's a great offensive rebounding wing, like one of the best offensive rebounding wings in the NBA, actually, at his position. He's not afraid of contact. He's got a nice floater. He shot the mid-range jumper at, like, I think 42% last season, so that's like 1% below the league average. Like, I think to myself, if we can pull off Keldon Johnson, I know he's not a big name. I know he's not, like, a sexy name. But, like, I think to myself, if we could land Keldon Johnson, we can keep, we could keep all our young guys together. Because, like, yeah, the Spurs are probably going to want something for him. But it's just the idea, like, it's very realistic to say, like, okay, we'll trade the Spurs Buddy Hield, Jalen Smith, a 2026 first rounder for him, and maybe a 2028. You know what I'm saying? Like, that seems like a nice haul for Keldon Johnson. I know there's people that aren't going to want to give up those picks, but by 2026 and 2028, like, our team will be fucking phenomenal, you know, if we were to make this trade. And I just think to myself, if we average 22 a game for the Spurs being their, you know, their primary option without a lot of guys really being there, I was like, if he comes here and plays with Tyrese Halliburton and we, like, decide we're going to make him the secondary guy, like, not only that also, but another thing to think about here is he's making less money than Bruce Brown Jr. Okay, like, he's making less money than the guy we just paid who has a team option the following year. So I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, okay, we could still somehow, some way come out of this with a solid defender, a solid rebounder, a solid scorer in Keldon Johnson, and still have cap space for next offseason to maybe sign OG Anunoby. So that's the main reason I'm bringing it up. It's like, yeah, this upcoming season could be a little lackluster if we did something like this. You know, like, I'm not saying Keldon Johnson's going to come out and be a bona fide 20-point-per-game scorer, but he'd be a very, very nice piece to add to what we currently have, and he could play the three. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have to have him play the four. We could keep Jarris Walker at the four. And then you look at our starting five or Obi Toppin or whoever we decide to play there. We're giving up Jalen Smith, who I think the Spurs could do a way better job of developing him than we could. Like, Jalen Smith, I think Jalen Smith is a good player. I think he just needs to go to a place where, like, he can actually get decent reps. And, like, he seems to be a guy that plays better off the bench for whatever reason. But Jalen Smith is a guy that I think San Antonio would actually turn into a really good player. Give them Buddy Hield. They get off, you know, they get off Keldon Johnson's long-ass contract, and you get Buddy Hield. You get one of the better three-point shooters in the league, and then the Spurs can trade Buddy Hield for picks. So, like, really, it's just the idea. It's like, well, this trade doesn't sound great. Buddy Hield, Jalen Smith on a 2026 for Keldon Johnson. They could flip Buddy Hield easily for, I think, 1 or 2 first-round picks to the right team. So it's just the idea. And the idea that San Antonio has such an ass ton of cap space, like the difference between us and San Antonio is, like, San Antonio realizes that their window is further away than ours is, okay? Our chance to compete for a championship is going to be coming, I think, a lot sooner than the Spurs will. Like, yeah, they'll have Victor Wembanyama, but they still got to put shit around Victor Wembanyama. We've got Tyrese Halliburton. He's established. We have Benedict Mathurin, who's coming into his own. We have Jarris Walker, we just drafted. Miles is Miles. It's going to be what it's going to be, okay? But it's just the idea. We could trade Buddy Hield and get Keldon Johnson, and it works out great for San Antonio still. Because they get Jalen Smith, they get a 2026 out of it, and Buddy Hield they can flip for, I think, easily 1 or 2 first-round picks. So really, you'd be getting Keldon Johnson for Jalen Smith and like 3 first-rounders. So, and depending on who they trade Buddy Hield to, like, those first-round picks could be even better than anything we could offer them. So, it's just the idea, man. Like, I know there's people who are going to look at Keldon Johnson's three-point percentage, 32% from the field last year from 3, and kind of, like, roll their eyes at that. But he's a career 36% three-point shooter, career-wise 46% from the field. And he's just a winning basketball player. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I like him. And I know he's going to be, oh, well, the Spurs ain't won shit, because that's what people do on the internet. But I like Keldon Johnson. I'm going to say that. I think he's a safe option. I think he fits our timeline. Like, there's nothing to bitch about age-wise. You know what I'm saying? And the idea that, like, this upcoming year, it could be used also as a growth year as well. Like, because we could just keep the roster the way it is and just let them play. Like, put Keldon Johnson out there with Tyrese Halliburton and Benedict Mathurin and Miles Turner and Obi Toppin or Jarris Walker or whoever. And we still have Bruce Brown Jr. coming off the bench. So, I don't know. And Andrew Nembhard. And that's another thing. We don't have to give up Andrew Nembhard either. I mean, like, it just, to me, makes too much sense. So, tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. Like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report. And out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.